Hello, welcome to Ikate's Crossing as we continue exploring Secret of Shambhala with chapter 4, and with this chapter we're using the Reiki Tarot, the 3rd edition. So we're using that for our readings today with the chapter 4. So let's have a look. What have we got for this part of the story? What cards are we going to actually focus on? Let's just move the book to one side. And let's just take a moment to take a nice deep breath. Let's sort of clear our mind with what's going on for us at the moment. Let's take a nice deep breath. Take a nice deep breath. And let's focus. What do we need to know in regards to this chapter, the rest of this chapter? What message are we going to focus on today? Let's just take a minute to breathe. Oh, I felt that. Okay, so this card here. Okay, so I think that's just one card. Cards are so thick it's hard to know. Okay, what's the second card for the reading that we need to focus on here? Okay, card number 2. Okay, let's have a look here. Oops, there we go. Card number 3. Okay. Number 4. Oh, that popped out pretty quickly. Card number 5. Right, let's have a look and see what message are we going to have with the Reiki Tarot. Let's have a look. First card here, we've got Queen of Pentacles. Now, Queen of Pentacles is a sense of being generous, being kind to others. Having the sense of being organised too is really important here. Being firm. Being practical in our approach. Ooh, boundaries might be important here because I get the word no. And so boundaries is also going to be quite important here. I think having a sense of I get the sense of protective energy is quite important in this journey here. So as we move forward, we need to be organised, be sorted, have boundaries seem to be quite important here. We've got the Fool. And so we've got the sense of being, I get the sense of being a little bit cautious. I actually got the Fool reversed in this one. So I get the sense of being a little bit cautious, being a little bit wary, not being too liberal with our energy in some way. I get the sense of just sort of taking a sort of a step back. I do have the 9 of Swords, so I do feel like there's a lot of worry and stress going on. So how can we release that worry and stress and things? And the thing, I do think there's boundaries. I do think there's a sense of being cautious, being aware of what's going on here. And we have the 6 of Swords. And I actually have the 6 of Swords as feeling like there needs to be a shift in perception, a shift of awareness, moving into maybe smoother waters. Maybe with this worry and the stress that's going on, there is this sense of leaving that behind so you can move into things that are a bit more sorted in some way. So I do feel like boundaries are going to be very, very important here. A sense of being organised, making sure that we're a little bit more cautious, a little bit more aware of our environment is going to be super important here. Being a little bit wary of our environment. Don't let the stress get the better of you though. I am getting this, I do feel like there's a dark cloud over the situation that's going on at the moment, and it is about that moving forward. on the journey and leaving that behind. Going into smoother waters, shifting your perception is going to be super important as we move through this chapter here. Okay, interesting. So we're right at the end of this chapter, so let's continue. We made good time reaching Pa Yang by sunset. We drove straight through town and then on for another 15 miles. Where Yin turned off the road on a road track. It was almost completely dark, but you could see the river half a mile ahead. There's a checkpoint up ahead, he explained. We have to go around it. As we approached the river, the road narrowed and became extremely rutted. What's that? Yin asked, stopping the jeep and backing up. Off in a rocky clearing to our right, barely visible, was a vehicle. I rolled down the side window so we could see more clearly. It's not a van, Yin said. It's a blue Land Cruiser. I strained to see. Wait a minute, I said. That's the vehicle I saw at the roadblock when we were separated. Yin shut off our headlights and the darkness seemed to engulf us. Let's go on a little further, he said, pulling the jeep forward through the dark, deep ruts for several hundred more feet. Look, I said, pointing. To our left was the van, parked between large rocks. No one was around. I was about to get out, and Yin lurched the jeep forward and parked it out of sight several hundred yards to the east. Better to hide our vehicle, he commented, locking it up as we got out. We returned to the van and looked around. The footprints go in this direction, Yin said, towards the south. Come on. I walked behind him as we made our way through the large rocks and sand. A 3/4 moon lit our way. After about 10 minutes he looked at me and sniffed. I could smell it too, the smoke of a fire. We walked another 50 yards in the darkness until we saw a campfire. A man and woman were huddled around it. It was the Dutch couple I'd seen in the van. The river was just beyond. What we do? I whispered. We'll have to announce ourselves, he said. You'd better do it so they will be less afraid. We don't know who they are, I said, resisting. Go ahead. Tell them we're here. I looked at them more closely. They were dressed in fatigues and thick cotton shirts. They looked more like mere tourists trekking in Tibet. Hello, I said in a loud voice. We're glad to see you. Yin looked at me askance. The two people jumped up and stared closely as I emerged from the darkness. Smiling broadly, I said, we need your help. Yin followed, bowing slightly, and said, we're sorry to disturb you, but we're looking for our friend, Wilson James. We were hoping you could help us. They were both not in shock, not believing we had walked into their camp this way, but slowly the woman seemed to realize we were harmless and offered us a place to sit beside the fire. We do not know Wilson James, she said, but the man we're here to meet tonight does know him. I've heard him mention the name. Her companion nodded, looking very nervous. I hope Jacob can find us. He is hours late. I was about to tell them that we'd seen the Land Cruiser parked not too far away when the expression on the man's face changed. He looked petrified. His eyes were glued to something behind me. I jerked around. Back in the direction of the vehicles, the terrain had come alive, with other vehicles and headlights and dozens of voices speaking in Chinese, all moving in our direction. The man leaped to his feet and extinguished the fire. He grabbed several packs and ran out of the camp with the woman. Come on, Yin said, trying to catch up to them. Within several minutes they'd disappeared in the darkness. Finally Yin gave up. Behind us the lights were getting closer, and we huddled by the river. I think I can make my way around to our jeep, Yin said. If we're lucky they haven't found it yet. You head north upstream for about a mile and try to outdistance them. You'll find another road there that comes down to the river's edge. Listen for me and I'll pick you up. Why can't I go with you? I asked. Because it's just too dangerous. One man might get through, but two would be seen. Reluctantly I agreed, and began to make my way through the rocks and gravel mounds in the moonlight, using my flashlights only when absolutely necessary. I knew Yin's plan was crazy, but it seemed to be our only chance. I wondered what could have been learned if we had talked longer to the Dutch couple or met the other man. After about 10 minutes I stopped to rest. I was cold and tired. I heard a rustling ahead of me. I strained to hear. Someone was definitely walking. It must be the Dutch couple, I thought. Slowly I made my way forward until I caught up with the sound. 20 feet away I could see the silhouette of only one person, a man. I knew I had to say something or risk losing him. Are you Dutch? I stammered, thinking that this might be the man the couple was waiting to meet. He froze and said nothing, so I repeated the question. It sounded silly, but I thought perhaps I would get some kind of response. Who is it? Came in reply. I'm an American, I said. I've seen your friends. He turned and looked at me. I struggled through the rocks to reach him. He was young, perhaps 25, and looked terrified. Where did you see my friends? He asked, his voice shaking as he focused on me. I could feel how afraid he was. A wave of fear swept through my body too, and I struggled to keep up my energy. Back downstream, I replied. They told us they were waiting for you. Were the Chinese there? He asked. Yes, but I think your friends got away. He looked even more panicked. They told us, I said quickly, that you know the man I'm looking for, Wilson James. He was backing up. I've got to get out of here, he said, running to leave. I've seen you before, I said. You were detained at a checkpoint in Zongba. Yes, he said. You were there. I was behind you in the traffic. You were being questioned by a Chinese official. That's right, he replied, nervously looking in all directions. What about Will? I asked, struggling to stay calm. Wilson James, do you know him? Did he tell you anything about a gateway? The young man didn't say anything. His eyes were glazed over with fear. He just turned and ran back through the rocks, heading further upstream. I chased him for a while, but he soon disappeared into the darkness. Finally, I stopped and looked back towards where the van and our jeep were parked. I could still see lights and hear muffled voices. I turned and headed north again, realizing full well that I had blown my chance. I had gotten no information from him. I tried to shrug off the failure. More important was finding Yin and trying to get away myself. Eventually I found the old road, and minutes later I heard the faint sound of a jeep. Okay, that's it from me. Don't forget to check the links down below. Check the links on my channel. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you know when the next video will be uploaded. Take care. Blessed be.